Chosen one. You have not arrived here by accident. Heaven has aligned this very moment with your spirit, drawing you into a divine appointment that carries both warning and supernatural promise. As you hear these words, the veil is lifting, and the Most High is positioning you at the threshold of a prophetic breakthrough. Anointed One, you are standing at the edge of a supernatural financial release, a divine wealth transfer prepared long before you knew to ask. For it is written, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it." Open your spirit now. Something holy is beginning. Chosen one. There are moments in life when something inside you stirs before your mind has language for it. A quiet tightening in the chest, a subtle shift in the atmosphere, an unexplainable restlessness that feels almost like someone tapping on the door of your spirit. This is one of those moments. And whether you realize it yet or not, heaven has aligned this precise hour to awaken you to reveal what has been moving beneath the surface and to position you as the one chosen to stand in the gap. What surrounds your daughter right now is not random. It is not coincidental. It is not the result of ordinary life unfolding. No, chosen one. It is something woven in silence, a quiet influence that has been attempting to redirect her steps in ways she cannot yet discern. But what makes this moment sacred is that heaven did not bring this revelation to her first. Heaven brought it to you. That alone is proof of the mantle you carry, even if life has pressed you so hard that you forgot who you were for a moment. You see, Anointed One, before danger ever forms, God awakens the one chosen to intervene. Before any plan against her finds footing, heaven stirs the spirit of the guardian assigned to her. And that guardian is you. I know this may feel overwhelming. I know it may feel heavy, but I also know what it's like to be thrust into a spiritual role you didn't ask for, yet somehow always sensed you were meant to carry. I remember seasons in my own life when I didn't understand why God was waking me in the middle of the night without reason, or why a name kept repeating in my thoughts, or why a certain heaviness lingered in the room long after the laughter faded. Only later did I realize that the divine often whispers before it warns, and warns before it intervenes. Heaven always gives the chosen one an inner nudge before revealing the full picture. And right now, that same nudge that once drew me into spiritual awakening is pressing on your spirit with purpose. This is why you've been sensing something shifting around your daughter. You may have noticed her pulling inward, laughing, less hesitating, without explanation. Her spirit has been trying to speak, but she does not yet know the language of spiritual warfare the way you do. She feels the shadow, but she cannot name it. She senses the shift, but she cannot interpret it. That is why heaven has awakened you, not her. Chosen one. I need you to understand what this means. You are not just a parent, guardian, or loved one. You are the spiritual gatekeeper of your household, a mantle not given by biology alone, but by divine appointment. And that appointment began long before this video found you. Right now, forces that do not carry the scent of the divine are attempting to shape the pages of her future. They are subtle, not loud. They come disguised as opportunity, not threat. They move through influence, not intimidation. They creep in through small shifts, not sudden chaos. And yet heaven saw it forming and responded not in fear, but in alignment by placing this message in your hands. This is where your role becomes sacred. Your awareness is not passive, it is active spiritual intervention. The moment you saw the title of this message and felt that stirring heaven began dismantling what was forming against her, you may not see the unraveling yet, but it has already begun, and I can tell you this from experience. When heaven exposes something early, it is because the outcome has already been written in victory. Chosen one. The unease you've been feeling is not anxiety. It is spiritual recognition. It is the Holy Spirit pressing on you, awakening the part of you that has always carried a deeper sensitivity, even if life tried to numb it. You were born with spiritual eyes, and your daughter has been entrusted to those eyes for a reason. You might question why heaven chose you and not someone else in her life. But this is how God works. Revelation is never given to the careless or the casual. It is entrusted to the one whose heart listens, even when the world grows loud. You have prayed prayers you thought went unnoticed. You have whispered her name in the dark when no one else knew you were fighting for her. You have sensed things long before others saw them. That is why heaven comes to you first. And now, as this revelation unfolds, hear this deeply: you are not late. You are right on time. Heaven is positioning you not to panic, but to perceive. Not to fear, but to stand. Not to react, but to rise. Something holy is shifting even now. The darkness that tried to cloud her path is trembling because the one chosen to guard her has awakened. Chosen one. This is the moment where your spirit steps into the role it was always destined to carry. The unveiling has begun, and what comes next will not only expose what was hidden, it will empower you to break it. Part 2. Approximately 700 words, chosen one. Now that your spirit has awakened and you've stepped into the awareness heaven entrusted to you, the atmosphere around your life is shifting in ways you may not fully recognize yet. But make no mistake, heaven is not only revealing what was hidden around your daughter, it is also positioning you for a supernatural elevation of your own. This is how God works when He calls a guardian to stand. He blesses the guardian as He protects the one they cover. What concerns your daughter has activated something ancient, spiritual, and deeply prophetic within you. You may not realize it, but this moment marks a turning point. Whenever heaven exposes a plot, it also releases a blessing. Whenever God uncovers what was forming in shadow, He simultaneously opens a path of divine alignment for the one chosen to intervene. And you, anointed one, are stepping into that alignment right now. You felt the heaviness lately. You felt the pressure, the spiritual fatigue, the quiet questions you didn't dare voice. You've wondered why this season has felt so weighty, why life has been pressing on you from multiple directions. But here is the truth. Heaven is finally unveiling. The pressure was not a sign of defeat. It was the sign of your anointing expanding. It was the mark of a mantle being activated. It was heaven preparing you for the battle and the blessing that would arrive at the same time. I know what it feels like to walk through seasons like this. I've been there nights where my spirit felt stirred, but nothing around me made sense. Days where I carried an unexplainable burden for someone I loved. Moments where I felt the supernatural tug of heaven nudging me to pay attention. Only later did I realize that when God assigns you to protect someone, He first strengthens your spirit through pressure. Not to break you, but to awaken you. Not to overwhelm you, but to elevate you. Chosen one, this is exactly what's happening to you. Your daughter's life is tied to a divine purpose, larger than she understands right now. And because you are connected to her destiny, heaven is expanding your capacity. You were chosen for this hour. You were anointed for this moment. And the spiritual tension you've been feeling is not a sign of weakness. It is the sign of a mantle settling on your shoulders. What heaven is about to reveal in the coming days will not only make sense of what you've been feeling, it will confirm the authority you carry. You may notice small things, a shift in conversation, a moment of clarity, a sudden sense of peace when you think of her. These are not coincidence. These are signs that the spiritual tide is turning. But there is something else you need to know, something just as important as the warning. Your obedience in this season is unlocking a divine financial shift in your own life. You were not only awakened to intervene, you were awakened because God is preparing to entrust you with more influence, more clarity, more resources, more spiritual strength. When a guardian rises, so does the provision around them. When you step into your assignment, heaven steps into your situation. And I say this carefully, with reverence, not with hype. What the enemy meant to use to distract your daughter, God will use to elevate you. Your obedience, your discernment, your willingness to stand when others would have looked away, these are seeds. And heaven never overlooks seeds planted in faith. You may not see the full harvest yet, but the soil has already shifted in your favor. Chosen. One, think of the moments you felt drained lately, the days you felt something tugging at your spirit, the nights when your thoughts lingered on her without explanation. Every one of those moments was heaven training you to hear, to see, to discern. And now that you've responded, now that you've awakened, the blessing tied to your obedience is being released. You are stepping into a season where what once felt heavy will begin to feel holy, where what once felt confusing will begin to feel clear, where what once felt like warfare will begin to look like preparation. And as heaven surrounds your daughter with protection, heaven is surrounding you with provision. You may not have asked for this role. You may not feel qualified. You may even feel unprepared. But heaven does not choose the most skilled. Heaven chooses the most sensitive. Heaven chooses the ones who listen. Heaven chooses the ones who can recognize a shift before others notice the wind. And heaven chose you. Chosen one. You are not just witnessing a spiritual turning, you are part of it. The same angels assigned to protect your daughter are moving around your life as well. What threatened her clarity is about to become the fuel for your own breakthrough. This is only the beginning. Chosen one. The moment you became aware of what was forming around your daughter, the spiritual atmosphere around your entire household began to shift. What you may have felt as tension, heaviness, or emotional fatigue was actually the breaking of old patterns and the weakening of influences that were never meant to remain. When heaven intervenes, it rarely arrives quietly, yet it also doesn't come with chaos. It comes with a divine pressure that forces what is hidden to rise to the surface. It pulls back the layers, reveals motives, exposes cracks, and shines light into places that had grown dim without you realizing. This is the stage you are stepping into now, a stage not of fear, but of unveiling. A stage where heaven begins to show you what your spirit sensed long before your mind understood. And as this unveiling continues, you must remember that your role in this moment is not to panic or overthink, it is to stay spiritually anchored. You are the one heaven trusts to hold the line. I've walked through seasons like this, seasons where something felt off without explanation. Times when a person close to me suddenly shifted, when conversations took on a strange tone, when dreams felt heavy or oddly vivid. Back then I didn't understand why, but now I know heaven often alerts the guardian before the battle begins. And that is what is happening to you now. You are not imagining things. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is the very reason heaven chose you. As you continue to walk through this revelation, you'll begin to notice moments, small, subtle, almost unremarkable on the surface, where clarity breaks through. Your daughter may say something that makes you pause. A name may repeat. A situation may feel different than before. These small signs matter because heaven rarely shouts. It whispers, it nudges, it makes patterns repeat until the chosen one recognizes them. There is something else unfolding as well. The same wind that is blowing away the shadows around your daughter is also clearing the path ahead of you. When heaven intervenes in one area of a family, it simultaneously prepares breakthroughs in others. You may soon see unexpected shifts in your finances, in relationships, in opportunities that once felt blocked. These are not distractions. They are indicators that the divine alignment is expanding, stretching, touching every corner of your life. You might notice you're feeling more reflective lately, quieter inside, more aware of what drains you and what feeds your spirit. That is not random. When God prepares a guardian for their next season, He strengthens their inner life first. He teaches you to hear beyond noise, to see beyond emotion, to discern beyond assumption. You are learning the language of the Spirit in real time. And yet, with all of this unfolding, there is something vital you must understand. Your daughter's journey is not moving toward danger. It is being rerouted toward destiny. What once tried to pull her sideways is losing its power. What once tried to influence her is losing its voice. This is not only because heaven intervened, but because you responded. Your awareness created a spiritual interruption. Your discernment created a break in the pattern. And now the forces that once tried to draw her in are becoming confused, weakened, and exposed. You will start to see her slowly returning to herself. You may notice her laughing again, thinking more clearly, expressing things she once kept hidden. You may see her avoiding certain people or situations without realizing why. This is heaven's protection moving through her decisions, even when she cannot articulate the reason. It is the spiritual equivalent of a parent quietly steering a child away from danger before they even see it. These shifts may seem subtle, but they are powerful. They are evidence that the plan forming against her has already begun to crumble. The net that once tried to tighten is now unraveling. The influence that once felt strong is losing its grip. Every whisper spoken without her permission is dissolving under the weight of divine intervention. And here is something deeply personal you must hear. Your daughter may never know how close she came to danger. She may never fully grasp what was forming around her. But she will walk in the clarity, joy, and protection that your obedience helped secure. Many of the greatest deliverances in our lives are ones we never knew about. Somebody prayed, somebody covered, somebody stood. And for her, that somebody is you. Chosen one. Understand this, she is not being rescued because she is weak. She is being rescued because she is chosen. And because she is chosen, heaven trusted you to be the one to see what she could not. As this chapter unfolds, your role is shifting now. You are moving from awareness into authority, from discernment into declaration, from sensing the danger into shaping the destiny. The next part of this journey will require your voice, your presence, and your spiritual steadiness. Chosen one. As you move deeper into this divine unveiling, you are stepping into a stage where heaven begins not only to expose what was forming against your daughter, but to equip you with the authority to redirect the entire course of her journey. This is no longer just about seeing. This is about shaping. This is about speaking. This is about standing in a place where your voice carries weight in the unseen realm. You may not feel powerful in the natural, but in the spirit, you are towering right now. And whether you realize it or not, your presence has already shifted the atmosphere around her life. There comes a moment in every guardian's journey when awareness must become action. Not dramatic action, not frantic action, but sacred, steady, intentional action rooted in spiritual clarity. You are entering that moment now. Heaven is opening your eyes, not just so you can observe, but so you can intervene with wisdom. And that wisdom does not come through fear or suspicion. It comes through alignment. I want to share something personal with you because I've walked a very similar road. There were times in my life when God allowed me to sense danger long before anything showed up on the surface. It confused me at first. How could I feel something that others didn't see? Why did my heart react when everything looked fine? But over time I learned that spiritual intuition is a gift, a divine early warning system entrusted only to those who can carry it with grace. And that is what you are feeling now. What others might shrug off, you feel as a responsibility. What others overlook, you sense as a shift. That is not hypersensitivity. That is spiritual maturity. Your daughter may not yet understand this level of discernment. She is still learning to navigate her purpose, still growing into her identity, still discovering her voice. This makes her vulnerable, not because she is weak, but because her calling is bright. And bright callings attract both angels and imitators. She carries a potential that threatens any influence that thrives on control or confusion. That is why subtle forces tried to shape her. They hoped she wouldn't notice, but heaven knew you would. Now comes the part. Many guardians overlook your daughter is not just being protected, she is being prepared. Her spirit is being sharpened, even if she doesn't see it yet. The confusion she felt before will become clarity. The heaviness that once lingered will become strength. The restlessness she carried will become discernment. These are the early signs of a calling coming alive, the kind of calling that often awakens after a season of subtle opposition. As this unfolds, you will be asked to play a new role in her journey, one that requires calmness, intentionality, and spiritual steadiness. This is not the time for long speeches or overwhelming advice. This is the time for quiet guidance, being present without pressure, asking simple questions that open inner doors, offering gentle words that remind her she is grounded, safe, and seen. Heaven does not need you to rescue her alone. Heaven needs you to walk beside her as she learns to recognize what her spirit already knows. And as you do this, something beautiful will happen. She will begin to trust her own intuition. She will start pausing before stepping into new situations. She will feel unease when something is off and listen to it instead of dismissing it. She will question voices that once held influence over her. This is the emergence of her spiritual radar, something you helped awaken by standing your post. You will also begin noticing shifts around your home. The atmosphere will feel lighter. Conversations that used to feel strained will soften. Peace will start settling into the corners of your living spaces. This isn't imagination. This is the presence of heaven cleansing what tried to attach itself. I've experienced this kind of cleansing before, where the air feels different, where rest comes easier, where laughter returns like an old friend. That's what happens when divine protection becomes active, not just promised. But there's another layer you must not ignore. While God is guarding your daughter, God is also transforming you. The same process that exposes threats also reveals strengths. The same spiritual awakening that alerted you to danger is awakening you to purpose. You are discovering parts of yourself you may have forgotten: your sensitivity, your intuition, your authority, your capacity to hear beyond words. These gifts did not appear suddenly. They were always there, waiting for a moment like this to activate. Chosen one. You are not just being called to protect. You are being called to lead. Your presence is not just creating safety, it is creating direction. Your voice is not just covering her, it is shaping the path she will walk. And as you continue this journey, heaven will begin releasing strategy, specific guidance, discernment, and clarity that will help you navigate the next steps. This next chapter will not be marked by fear, but by empowerment, by understanding, by spiritual confidence. You will know what to say, when to speak, when to listen, and when to simply be near. You will feel heaven guiding you not as a burden, but as a partnership. And from here, chosen one, the story begins to turn. Chosen one, as you continue walking through this divine turning point, something profound is beginning to rise within you. It is subtle, but it is unmistakable. It is the quiet realization that you are no longer responding from fear, but from clarity. You are no longer guessing, but discerning. You are no longer standing on shaky ground, but on spiritual authority that you didn't even know had been developing inside you for years. This is the stage where heaven begins, not just to reveal, not just to protect, but to empower. You might not recognize it at first because spiritual empowerment rarely announces itself with fireworks. It often shows up in the small, unglamorous moments, the way you choose peace over panic, the way you observe instead of react, the way your spirit pauses before your mouth speaks. This is the maturation of spiritual vision. This is heaven strengthening the inner guardian who will shape the atmosphere of the home long after this storm has passed. Your daughter, whether she expresses it or not, is already feeling the shift in you. She may not know the details, but she can sense when the spiritual climate changes. Children, young people, even adults navigating their own growth, they feel the atmosphere more than they understand it. Your steadiness is becoming a silent lighthouse for her. Even without words, your presence is now a shield. There will be moments in the coming days when she looks at you a little longer than usual, or when she stays close without realizing why. These are not small things. These are echoes of the spiritual safety returning to her environment. Heaven is realigning her steps through the calmness you carry. I have lived through seasons where someone else's quiet strength guided me out of a fog I didn't even know I was in. Those moments were not dramatic, but they left marks on my life that shaped who I became. You are becoming that anchor for her now. But heaven is not done with you yet. The same divine intervention that unraveled the net formed around her life is now preparing to usher you into a season of restoration and replenishment. What you poured out spiritually is being returned to you in ways you didn't expect. Sometimes we think spiritual battles drain us, but the truth is that heaven compensates the intercessor. When you stand in the gap, something in heaven opens in return. You may find unexpected doors beginning to appear in your own life. Opportunities that seemed distant suddenly feel near. Connections that once felt out of reach now feel possible. This is not distraction. This is divine reciprocity. When you handle heaven's business, heaven handles yours. And one of the ways God demonstrates honor to those who stand faithfully is by releasing provision in ways that feel almost supernatural. Do not be surprised if clarity begins to rise around your finances, your ideas, your decisions. Do not be surprised if people begin reaching out, offering support or insight without you asking. Do not be surprised if the very areas where you once felt stuck suddenly begin to move again. This is heaven's response to your obedience. When you stepped into your role as guardian, you activated a blessing that was tied to your own destiny. Even the way you carry yourself in the coming days will shift. You may notice your thoughts feeling lighter, your sleep deepening, your intuition sharpening. This is the afterglow of spiritual warfare won not by shouting, but by awakening. Heaven is still cleaning the air around your household, still shutting the old doors, still dissolving the old influences. But now heaven is also preparing you for what comes next, a season where you lead not from fear, but from fullness. Your daughter's path is clearing. You may not see every detail, but the fog is lifting. Conversations that once seemed confusing will begin making sense. Decisions she once struggled with will feel easier. The spiritual tug that once pulled her off course will lose its influence completely. This is what happens when divine intervention becomes active instead of passive. It doesn't just protect, it redirects. And in the midst of all this, something even deeper is happening. Your home is being reset. The emotional weight that once lingered is fading. The heaviness in the atmosphere is lifting. The silence in the home will begin to feel peaceful instead of tense. Even arguments or misunderstandings that once felt sharp may begin to dissolve before they escalate. This is what happens when angels stand guard. This is what happens when spiritual authority is restored. Chosen one. You are not just witnessing her turning. You are witnessing your own transformation, a transformation that will set the tone for everything that comes after this moment. Chosen one. As this journey continues unfolding, you are entering a stage where the spiritual becomes practical, where revelation becomes routine, and where protection becomes pattern. What was once a single moment of awakening is becoming a rhythm in your daily life. You are beginning to see with increasing clarity how heaven guides not just through grand interventions, but through subtle, gentle course corrections woven into ordinary days. You may not realize it yet, but your home is learning a new spiritual language, one shaped by your steadiness, your awareness, and your willingness to stand in places others would have ignored. The air feels different because you are different. And as heaven stabilizes you, your daughter is being drawn into that stability without needing explanation. She walks more lightly because your spirit carries the weight for her. In the coming days, you will notice a powerful shift, her peace returning. It may begin quietly, a more relaxed expression, a softer tone in her voice, an unexpected moment of laughter. These are signs that the cloud trying to settle over her has lifted. They are proof that the influence once pulling at her spirit no longer has access. And it's not because she fought her way out of it, it's because you stood in your place and heaven honored your position. I've experienced similar shifts where people I loved suddenly felt freer without knowing why. They thought it was just a good day or a moment of clarity, but in reality, it was the residue of a spiritual battle already won on their behalf. You are experiencing that same grace now. That is the mystery of covering those you love walk in victories they never had to fight for. But alongside her restoration, something is awakening in you, a deeper sense of spiritual confidence. Not arrogance, not pride, just a quiet certainty that you are not alone, that heaven is listening, and that your discernment is trustworthy. You are beginning to trust the inner voice you once doubted. You are beginning to recognize the divine signals that used to pass unnoticed. This is personal growth born from spiritual responsibility. As this confidence grows, so will your ability to guide her not through lectures or warnings, but through presence, tone, and simple questions that open her heart without overwhelming her. You will start to understand what she needs before she says it. You'll know when she's carrying something heavy, even if she hides it behind a smile. You'll feel shifts in her emotions before she finds the words. This is not intuition. It is spiritual alignment between guardian and the one guarded. During this season, heaven will also begin strengthening the emotional atmosphere of your home. Old heaviness will lose its grip. Misunderstandings that once escalated will deflate. Small irritations will fade quickly. Even your own internal reactions will feel gentler, slower, wiser. This is the fruit of divine intervention. It doesn't just protect, it restores. Chosen. One, understand this: the worst of the spiritual storm has already passed. What's rising now is clarity, healing, and grounding. Your daughter may not fully realize what happened, and she doesn't need to. She simply needs to feel safe again, and she will. You, on the other hand, are being elevated into a new level of spiritual maturity that will shape the way you lead your home for years to come. Everything that once felt chaotic is now being rearranged into divine order. Everything that once threatened her path is becoming irrelevant. Everything that once frightened you is being replaced by wisdom. You are not just protecting her, you are guiding her into her true identity, even without speaking about it. Chosen one. The story is turning, and you are becoming the steady force heaven can trust. Chosen one. Now that the atmosphere has shifted and your daughter is beginning to walk in a lighter, clearer space, heaven is turning its attention toward the deeper layers of restoration, those invisible places in your family line, where confusion once lingered, where old patterns tried to repeat themselves, and where silence once carried more weight than words. What is unfolding now is not just protection, it is liberation. And you are standing at the center of it. You may notice small things, first conversations that feel softer, moments of connection that happen without being forced, laughter returning in unexpected moments. These are not coincidences, they are signs that your home is breathing again. When a spiritual heaviness lifts, the atmosphere doesn't just change, it heals. And your presence, your intentionality, your spiritual alignment have created a place where peace can finally settle without being fought for. But there is more happening beneath the surface. Heaven is not only restoring what was attacked, heaven is strengthening what remains. Certain relationships in your home may begin to deepen not through dramatic breakthroughs, but through small gestures of warmth and presence. Your daughter may find herself more open to conversations she once avoided. She may even come to you with questions, seeking guidance without knowing why she feels drawn to your voice. This is what it looks like when the spiritual fog lifts. It reveals not just danger but opportunity, not just wounds but potential. And in this season, your role evolves once again. You are no longer simply guarding or observing, you are becoming a guide, a quiet mentor, shaping her inner world through stability. You might find moments where you feel prompted to say a simple phrase like, "Take your time," or "What are you feeling right now?" These gentle invitations will help her untangle emotions she didn't know how to interpret before. Heaven will give you the right words at the right moments. At the same time, do not overlook how heaven is tending to you. You will begin to notice a renewed sense of strength rising in your spirit, an inner clarity, a deeper peace, a confidence that feels unforced. This is heaven's way of replenishing what you poured out. Spiritual battles can drain the body, but they strengthen the soul. And you will feel that strength growing. Chosen one. This moment is precious. The danger has been dismantled, the net unraveled, the influence broken. What remains is a new beginning, not loud, not dramatic, but steady and lasting. A new pattern is forming in your household, one woven with clarity, trust, and spiritual alignment. This is the same pattern that will guide your daughter into the next season of her purpose. And though she may never know the fullness of what you protected her from, she will grow into the strength you prayed for, the confidence you carried, and the clarity you fought for. You have done more than stand. You have shifted the direction of her destiny. Chosen one. Now that the tide has fully turned and the spiritual storm has lost its grip, heaven is inviting you into the final phase of this journey, the sealing. This is where everything that has been revealed and restored becomes anchored. Breakthroughs are powerful, but what makes them permanent is the posture of the one who received them. Heaven trusts you to carry what comes next. Your daughter is entering a clearer, safer season, but this moment is also about you. This entire encounter has awakened something that was dormant within you: your discernment, your spiritual sensitivity, your ability to perceive shifts before they surface. You may feel a calmness that doesn't come from circumstances, but from awareness. Awareness that you are guided. Awareness that you heard correctly. Awareness that heaven steps in when you move with intention. Think back to when this began, the unease, the heaviness, the questions you couldn't name. And now look at yourself, grounded, spiritually alert, able to sense direction instead of confusion. That alone is a miracle. Many ignore such signs. You leaned in. Because you listened, heaven moved. Your daughter will soon experience the fruit of your obedience. She may laugh more, breathe easier, think clearer. She may wake up feeling lighter without knowing why. She will never fully understand how close she came to danger, but she will walk in the freedom you fought for, even in silence. And as her path clears, yours will too. Heaven never awakens a guardian without blessing them. Opportunities will feel closer, ideas sharper, decisions easier. What once felt blocked will loosen. The fog around your own life is lifting because spiritual interference has been removed. I've walked through seasons like this myself. Every time I stepped into a role that required spiritual responsibility, heaven later opened doors I hadn't even prayed for, not as a reward, but as alignment. When you cooperate with heaven, heaven cooperates with you. Your home will continue to shift too. Old tensions will dissolve, conversations will soften, a natural peace will take the place of old heaviness. Even simple routines will feel lighter. This is the atmosphere of a household that has been spiritually cleansed. And your daughter will rise slowly, steadily, beautifully. Her confidence will return. Her clarity will deepen. She will start walking toward the purpose that made her a target in the first place. But now she walks, covered, strengthened by a safety she didn't have to earn. Chosen one, take in the weight of what has happened. You didn't fight this battle with force. You won it with awareness, discernment, and obedience. Heaven called you a gatekeeper, and you proved heaven right. What comes next will not be battle, but rebuilding. Not fear, but certainty. Not heaviness, but renewal. Your home is secure. Your daughter is protected. Your spirit is awakened. And the path before you is brighter than anything behind you. Chosen one. As this message comes to a close, let your spirit rest in the certainty that heaven has already moved. What needed to be exposed has been revealed. What needed to be broken has been dismantled. And what needed to be awakened within you has risen with power. You are not leaving this moment the way you entered it. You're stepping out, carrying a mantle, a clarity and an authority that heaven has trusted you with. Anointed one, the divine transfer has already begun. The protection over your daughter is sealed, but so is the blessing over your household. This is your Kairos moment, the point in time heaven wrote long before you breathed your first breath. Walk forward, knowing that the same God who uncovered the danger is now establishing your family in light, in wisdom, and in lasting favor. Hold your head high. Keep your spirit steady. Stay aligned with the flow of the anointing. What is unfolding now is not just deliverance, but elevation. Not just rescue, but restoration. not just clarity, but covenant. Chosen one, if this word resonated in your spirit, let heaven hear your agreement. Speak it, whisper it, write it. She will rise and I will stand. And if you feel led, share your testimony or your agreement in the comments so that this ministry becomes a living altar of faith. Until we meet again, stay awake, stay discerning, and stay ready. Your steps are guided, your home is covered, and your daughter is rising into her divine design. Blessings on you, chosen one.